Back-to-back betrayals leads to back-to-back wins for the new, dare I say, face of the franchise. Plus, Berna grabs the final power position, Corey makes some history, Olivia does her best to make right, James's epic polidicking run comes to an end, and for the second week in a row, this historian will do his damnedest, do his best not to get emotional over who was purged, but damn it, why'd it have to be Michele? It's the challenge. Battle for a new champion, episode 17. That's right, 17. Recap coming up right now. What up, my fellow challenge lover? Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future. If it's happening in the Challenge universe, we are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated Challenge Historian, Jacob Hollaball. Thank you so very, very much for being here with me on this Wednesday night, the 17th. 17th Wednesday night, give or take a day here or there. We have been here to cover B-Fank the 18th week in a row. We have been here covering Battle for a New Champion. The season is super long, but damn if it wasn't worth it to get to where we got to last week and this week, and what looks to be a pretty entertaining final coming up, and that's a pretty rare thing sometimes for the final to actually be entertaining. And so we've got a lot to discuss, an action-packed episode, a much-anticipated episode coming into this week, coming out of last week, which was fantastic. Before we dive in, a quick couple of words. We do have programming reminders coming up, but the biggest thing I want to say up top in this podcast is if you are online at all within the challenge community throughout this week, I think really up to the last week-ish or so over the course of the last weekend and this week, we've all learned that one of our best, one of the most amazing humans of the many amazing humans that make up the world of the challenge and the cast community of the challenge, the wonderful, the great Ayanna, has had a cancer diagnosis and is, up for a really big battle here in her life, and has, been able to come and be vulnerable online and share with the challenge community everything she is going through. And the outpouring of love and help and support for her has been absolutely fantastic, unbelievable to see. And I just want to to implore you, if you have the ability to continue that outpouring, to continue that support, whether that be financial in donating to the fundraiser that Rachel Robinson, the amazing, the great always Rachel Robinson, set up on Ayanna's behalf, or it's just sending some kind words, sending some positive reinforcement Ayanna's way. Anything, any little bit will help, does help, is amazing, and is definitely deserved by her. My own personal, I do randomly, because she's such an amazing person, I do randomly have a little Ayanna story. I have not had the pleasure of actually getting to meet Ayanna, but I have messaged with her a little bit back during the rewatch series a year plus ago, whenever it was. Obviously, Ayanna starred in a couple of the earliest seasons of the show, and when I was doing those rewatch and putting out a lot of the clips, especially for those first few seasons, Instagram would allow me to put the clips out for those ones, and I did a bunch. And as I put a bunch out, she was responding to me. She was looking at all of them. She was responding. We had a couple great conversations about some of the things that happened on season 3, where she somewhat famously at this point got kicked off of the season in a very kind of controversial way, in a very real world-esque way, a very old school reality TV way of like this thing that occurred and like, what do we do about it, and actually getting to see the conversations that take place, produce the whole thing. So we had these amazing back and forth conversations. I learned a lot from her. And then randomly I found out, and I haven't yet got to, meet her at a Challenge Mania or event or anything to tell her thank you in person. But I found out after that fact that at one of the Challenge Manias, I think it was in Baltimore. I want to say it's in Baltimore, but I don't know which one it was. But from the stage where she was taking part in a Challenge Mania, she randomly just shouted out me in the podcast and Challenge Historian multiple times on stage, just like brought up and, loved that I was talking about the show, that I had talked with her about the old version, the old seasons of the show and the whole thing. And I found out through the grapevine from others, I believe Derek Kaczynski was the one that told me initially, like, hey, Ayanna, like, shouted you out today. And I was just blown away, floored. That's the type of amazing person that she is. And so, yeah, she's the best. She's a warrior. She's going to battle this thing like hell, but she deserves our full support. So anything you can give, the link will be in the show notes if you're listening on the audio. If you're on YouTube, the link will be in the description. If you have anything at all that you are able to donate and help out with the medical bills that will be coming her way, fantastic. And like I said, again, also I will link her Instagram page in the show notes and everything. If you want to just send a positive message, let her know we're thinking of her, love her, do that as well. So shout out to Ayanna. She's the best and true OG, true legend in this game, and all the power to her. We know the warrior that she is. She will get through this like the champion that she is. Now, as for tonight, the podcast itself, same agenda as always. We're going to walk through the episode, hit all the major storylines, do some awards, and then at the end, we are going to update the power rankings to be one final list of the 9 that are left, the 7 that are left. How many people are left? 7 at the end of this? Not that many. Not that many. That is how many is left at the end of this episode, and give our final predictions for the end. Also, the only program reminder, obviously, B-Fank will continue next week, so we will continue our coverage. But do know next week, next Wednesday, Valentine's Day. So the episode will be out on Thursday sometime. Your boy is a fantastic husband, okay? Just not to toot my own horn like Nurys gets to do in this episode, but toot. Like to think I'm a fantastic husband, and I know I am a fantastic date night planner extraordinaire. So not missing Valentine's Day, okay? Where, some things take precedence over the podcast. So we'll be watching the challenge Thursday. We'll be recording on Thursday. That'll be out sometime then. Other than that, let's dive in. An amazing episode. Didn't it feel good to anticipate all week long? The energy in the challenge community, unbelievable around the franchise this season, this upcoming episode, Nurys' entrance back in. It was amazing. I loved the energy. I loved looking forward so much to this episode. So let's dive in and talk about everything that went down. Episode 17, B-Fank, here we go. First things first, we of course start at the house, and we start at the part that we were all waiting to see. Yes, this whole episode was good. There was a lot. We're obviously going to get into all of it, but we were all just waiting for the beginning. That's what we wanted. All week long after how last week ended, Nurys walking back into that house, how beautifully edited the end of last week's episode was to set this all up. Not to needed much set up, but they did an incredible job, and we were on the edge of our seats, waiting, and Nurys' entrance lives up to the hype, complete and utter badass. And she plays it perfect. Now, were we maybe expecting more of the fireworks that we do eventually get later in the episode? Certainly. And if that would have happened, obviously it would have been valid. And it probably would have been entertaining. A huge blowout, telling everyone off, using some choral-like insults would have been amazing television. But, if you really want to fuck with someone, if you really want to get under someone's skin that wronged you, you know what? One of the best ways, maybe the best way to do it, be super calm. Don't yell at them. When they expect you to go off on them, when Olivia is sitting there expecting Nurys to yell at her, to let her have it, to just rip into her, not doing it, just sitting there, being calm, acting like, I'm mad, but it's okay. That eats at them so much more. They almost need you to yell at them to feel a little bit better, to be able to have a reason to play in their mind to vindicate the things after the fact. It makes no sense, but it is a little bit how a lot of our minds work. And you can see in this moment, this is exactly how Nurys handles it. She's super calm. She tells the whole group, I ain't telling you shit. Fuck all of y'all, but I'm here and we're going to play the game, and that's what it is. And then we get the one-on-one with her and Olivia, and she is borderline kind. She's just calm. She's like, I hear your apology, and it's the game is the game, and we got to keep playing it. And she just kind of keeps it moving, and you could tell in handling it in that way, Olivia, just the pain on Olivia's face just gets worse and worse and worse, and she seems like legitimately distraught. So yes, would the fireworks, with the insults, with the yelling and everything, been super entertaining? Probably. Nurys is damn good with her words when she's upset and letting you know. But as far as effectively kind of getting back at these people and actually putting them through a little bit of mental torture, this was definitely the way to go. Olivia's apology, was was good. They're not great, but there isn't a great apology. There wasn't an apology that's going to like make this right all of a sudden, but it was fine. It definitely seemed valid. And certainly throughout the rest of the episode, I believe, her feelings are very valid and very real and authentic here. And this isn't some just like, I need to make face for the cameras. This is really how she feels. But also the way Nurys handles this, while it's probably the most effective to get under the Olivias, the Jays, the everyone else's skins a little bit, it's also the best for her game too. She has no one in this house. No one. So being calm, making the space for people to come to you with offers, with desires to make things right, that's your best probability in that moment as far as getting some footing back in the game, getting someone who maybe will help you out in this last round. Anything, it's not a guarantee, and certainly it obviously doesn't end up that way, but probability-wise, this is the best strategy if it's like, I still want to survive in advance. I need to put all these feelings to the side and find a way to get to this final, the best scenario. How can I get there? So I think she plays it beautifully, and thankfully, I feel a little better saying it, knowing that later in the episode, we do get some of the fireworks. So it's good. We at least get some of them, and in this moment, I think she does everything right. And she pitches, and collectively, they all eventually pitch the All-Girls Alliance. It finally happened. Finally. This is the perfect idea. It's fantastic. It's the best. They should have done it weeks ago. They maybe should have done it the whole damn season, even if the format didn't allow for it as easily before, obviously, when it was more often than not split male and female. But there was a lot of weeks where it was kind of up to them at the start, and then certainly these last 3 weeks, it was up to them, and they could have done it. I love it. The women, for a brief moment, as we kind of discussed last week, yes, they have been given the short end of the stick throughout the history of the challenge. There is no arguing that fact. But there is also the second truth, which is the few moments that the women have had an opportunity to come together and take down the men on a particular season. They just haven't been able to do it. And so in this moment, I was rejoicing. I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to do it. They're going to buck all of challenge history. But then they don't. And they don't. And the reason they don't is because they don't tell everyone. You need to tell everyone. And maybe they did. Maybe we just didn't get to see that. But I needed to see after this moment, they get half the group. I think it's Michele, Olivia, Nurys. Maybe one more's in there. Maybe it's just the three of them at one point discussing this, and eventually it gets around to everyone. But you need to get all 6 women in one room and say, hey, wouldn't this be nice? Wouldn't this be great? Should we all help each other at the next daily if possible? Should we all make sure this is what we're doing? All of us will agree that all of us have to kind of dick over, one of the guys in this. No one's going to have no blood on their hands as far as leaving out to dry someone we were working with. Everyone in that situation, maybe it happens, but you got to talk to everyone before the daily, and ultimately it falls apart. Now we've got the daily challenge. Now, the game itself. Let's talk the game itself, because I want to continue to avoid the actual end result of the game as much as possible. The game itself is pretty great. Honestly, I really loved it. It's simple, it's fast, and is something that I could see them have been played on any single season of the challenge in the entire history of the show. Yeah, the older seasons, the rig, the setup, the log would have been maybe not as nice, maybe been a little less safe, but this is the type of game that I could see them playing at any time, and it's very simple and straightforward, one act. I like that. I think they did a very smart job as far as, I usually have an issue with doing the rounds or the heats and the different things. They actually structured this one exactly, I think, the best possible way of just everyone goes at once, top half into winners, top half into losers, and then we'll go a second time. So it's not just that first round, first person that drops. It's a little more random than getting to do it a second time, getting to learn from your mistakes possibly before you get purged, or figure out kind of how to do it to then make a little bit of a comeback and get the win in the winners round. So loved everything about the competition itself. Let's talk a couple performances super quick. I do have one question for Corey Lay. There was a water bottle. I got to go back and double check the tape because I thought I was crazy when I saw it. But it seemed like Corey had a water bottle stuffed in the back of his pants, which seemed a little cumbersome when his butt kept ending up on the rolling log there. So I'll report back next week. I'll DM him and see if I can get an answer as to what that is. Corey, if you're listening, I know you sometimes listen. Please let me know what the water bottle was. I know you might planned on hanging on for a long time, so maybe you were just thinking you might get thirsty up there. James showed some solid skill. Does it matter because he ended up leaving at the end of the episode? So no, it doesn't. But I was impressed, showed some solid skill that I didn't 100% anticipate. Jay actually was kind of surprised. At first, I was like, oh, Jay's going to dominate again. Like, there is some climbing element. He's got that upper body strength. He's got the balance. He climbs, he surfs. This does seem, kind of tailor-made for him. So I was a little bit surprised. Like, he did perfectly good. I think he got third overall or whatever. So it's not like he did bad or flopped or anything like that, but was kind of surprised he didn't win, to be honest. Thought he was going to get that second win in a row and just waltz right into that final. And then we got Berna. She puts her skills to the test and dominates, and it's fantastic. Let's be honest. You've got to feel good for her. You just have to, okay? You can feel however you want to feel about Berna. Obviously, she's a conundrum to me. I don't know how to really react to everything that goes on in the house. I don't know who to blame for what. Who exactly she even is. But I love having her. I love having the big question mark, the kind of a little bit of a chaos agent accidentally almost in the house. And you've got to feel good for her in her story. Getting this win on the last one, like, it's pretty amazing. So feel good for her. It's kind of the rules. Have a heart already. All right. If you're a big Berna hater, just have a heart. It's fine. It feels nice that she won. Plus, she was the biggest question mark as far as if someone who would win where we wouldn't know what would happen after they win. It was probably her. Like, it still falls pretty easily into line, but it was going to kind of fall in line no matter who won. I felt like it was the biggest question, or at least made it so that it was the one person who could win, maybe Corey or Colleen as well, that would have ended up in the same position of like, this is going to come down to Jay making a decision, which is ultimately what we wanted from a television perspective. So yeah, amazing job by Berna, but obviously the one who did not do such an amazing job was Michele. Michele was purged, and for the second week in a row, won. I had three favorites coming into this season, and they all remained in favorite category. And while I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled that one of those three did make the final, shout out to Corey, and we will talk about him making the final, did make a little bit of history with this finals appearance for him. We'll talk about that later, but back-to-back weeks, I thought I was going to get all three there. I was feeling so good about it. Ed and Corey were, dominating, kicking ass. Michele was kicking ass socially, politically. It's like they're all going to make the final. This is going to be the best. And then Ed goes down last week, and then Michele goes down this week. And I am heartbroken. I just love Michele so much. I think she is, and I think both subjectively, she's like maybe my favorite current cast member, but objectively, even if you're like don't love the big alliance running things, if you don't love her for any reason, I feel like objectively, she's one of those people we have to admit is a really good cast member for this show. Just is. Across the board. Does everything good. It's a little bit messy with, the romances is a little bit messy. Dominant, but messy socially and politically. That's a pretty amazing, combination to be pretty damn good and dominant at it, but also still keeping that mess when you don't always necessarily have to. And in this season, it was much more her buddy Jay's mess that she was kind of always indirectly a part of, but I just think she checks a lot of boxes. I think she's an amazing cast member, and I just personally love her to death. And all three purges have now been horrible. So, do I hate the purges now? Part of me does, certainly, but they're amazing for the show. It makes it so much more exciting. I can't hate on it just because my favorites were the ones that were the victims to the purge, but damn, did it suck. Raven, Ed, Michele, tough. I don't know that if you're the producers on that, those are anywhere near the people you would pick to have gotten purged from the game during this part of the season. Michele ran this season. That's a fact. Like, she beat Cara in an elimination, so she always has that. That's pretty awesome. And I think I saw someone, it wasn't challenge stats, but I think they may have referenced it in recent weeks too. Someone said today that she had the most confessionals ever in a season now. She broke the record during this episode, and that probably checks out. 17 episodes, she was definitely the heaviest confessional person. Like, it definitely probable. We'll have to check in with challenge stats on that, get the official word, but one way or the other, if she did or she came close, either way, super deserved. She was the narrator of the season. She was the political mastermind of the season, the social mastermind of the season. She ran this shit, and she just fell she literally fell just short of the final. And she was right, though. The part that was the hardest was she was pretty spot on in her, little exit interview, exit confessional there, is if she was going to win, this was going to be the season. Like, if she doesn't get purged and is able, she was the linchpin to maybe pull all the ladies together, do the all ladies final thing, then she's certainly got a chance to win this final. And for a player like her that is, I can dominate politically, I can dominate socially, but as to her own admission, I don't quite, doesn't quite stack up with the best of the best when it comes to, like, if I just had to run a final versus the best possible people in the game, I probably not going to beat them. And so your avenue to winning in that scenario is run a final versus not the Tories of the world, the Caseys of the world, et cetera, is get the field that you can beat, a field you can be one of the favorites in. And she had done that, and it's really hard to do that. And so that she doesn't get to actually run that final and see if it could come true. I do worry that I find it hard to think that she's going to be able to maneuver into a more advantageous final in the future, but I sure hope she does. I sure hope she's back. She is still arguably, Nurys is now the face of the franchise, like for the time being, that's for sure. But Michele has definitely fallen into the upper echelon category of, if we're looking at the kind of group, the collective makes up the faces of the franchise, she's in it. I love her. I adore her. I hope she's back. And it was a super bummer to see her drop and head out right before the final. Let's talk just the first part of the house segment first. This will be quick, and then we'll get to, obviously, the big showdown and the yelling match and the fireworks that do go down. Berna is out. Immediately, Berna's like, I'm not this all-girls final thing. Yeah, not about it. Some people have taken care of me, and they've actually been good to me and, worked with me the whole season, even if in reality they just never had to let her know how far down the list in the alliance she was. But she did have Corey and Colleen, who the three of them got super tight and really did work together for real work together the last couple of weeks, back half of the season here. And to some degree, she deserves to be loyal to a Jay and a Manuel for certain. But if Michele is there, if Michele was there, Michele is the one who's sneaky enough to not fill in Berna maybe and be like, Berna, you're going to pick me first. And yeah, we're going to go exactly the order we talk about, but behind your back, I'm going to kind of put this all girls things together. If you're not on board, I'll still kind of make it happen. And, in that scenario, maybe Colleen still, gives her vote to Corey over Mariah. But I think one way or the other, all the girls would have been safe if Michele isn't the one purged. If anyone else is purged, I think all of the women find a way to end up safe in this, because I think she and Olivia and Nurys would have been enough, three of the people in this scenario to maneuver and find a way to pull this off. And it still should have been the case even without Michele there. Like, Berna maybe loses the final because of this decision. Like, if I'm her, I know, I just don't. Emmanuel's been a great friend to her, certainly. But again, I think she was lower on their list than she maybe wants to admit to herself, even if she does kind of know it in her heart of hearts. But like, I'm picking Jay, Emmanuel, and Corey over her every time in the final. And so you have the chance to put those three that I think are probably favored over you in a final in. And then if two or three of them go, like, you might be the new favorite in the final for all we know. At least you could get Jay in there for sure 100%. You could probably end up, you could find a way to get Jay and James and Corey in there and not Emmanuel, and just kind of save your one actual friend along with Alliance member. Maybe Jay, just somehow, some way, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. You've got to pull the trigger. You've got to take out the top competition and continue to do so. And I don't know that she does that. I mean, she tried to take out Nurys, who is arguably the top competition now. And so, that's one, but I do think she should have taken this chance. She should have, went for it. And I think if Michele was there, she could have been convinced to do it. Then we get a party night. It's pretty lame again. 9-person party nights are tough. It's going to be tough to produce a lot of great stuff during that. As always, they need to restructure the show. I say it by the end of every season. They need to get over having 20-episode seasons, and there needs to be a way for 10 to 12 or even more, for all I care, people left at the final couple of episodes, because when it's this few people, there's just, most people's favorites have been eliminated. There's less people to focus on, less stories to focus on. And, it's already hard to kind of make the final as interesting as the rest of the season, but definitely taking 6, 7, 8 people versus 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people definitely puts you in a tough spot, and puts you in a tough spot when you have party nights like this. Then we've got Jay versus Nurys. It finally happens, and what is Jay doing? I really haven't been that against most of anything Jay's really done this season. I think he easily, in this moment, he so easily could have saved face. He could have, it was just sitting there for him to save a friendship and to be able to look back. And as much as people would have tried to dog him for it or whatever, if he saves Nurys right here, he could look back and spin this whole season as I never really did anything wrong. All the people I was connected to, I was a part of dominoes that led to things happening. And clearly I was on the other side directly against Horacio and Kylan, but not so much you. And there's a spin he could have put on the whole thing if he, threw the bow on the end of and I saved you at the end. And I was, heartbroken when it didn't work out the week before, the whole thing. And he just doesn't. He just decides, no, thank you, no chance. I'm going to burn this thing down to the ground. Look, is the information Colleen gives him true? Yes, we see the flashback. We knew that there was a discussion between Colleen and Nurys about if it comes down to Kylan and Jay, maybe we lean Kylan, and maybe we Jay's kind of, led some of us astray a little bit here, kind of has too big of a group, the whole thing. Yeah, sure, it happened. She considered Kylan over you. No action was taken. No harm was done. You were never put in jeopardy, and you definitely, indirectly, sure, but a pretty direct, indirect harm was done towards her and the people she cared most about in the game alongside of you. And if anyone was not fully, working on behalf of them and the person they supposedly were, besties with and in line with, it's Jay towards Nurys and not the other way around. So move on from, this nothing burger of she considered once upon a time, would she think about voting for you? Move on, pick her. You don't even have to lie about it. What's the other amazing part? It's not like his alliance is don't you dare pick her, and he would have to lie to someone and do something here shady either way. Berna openly says, I'm giving you the chance. If you want to pick her, sure. I wouldn't. If you wanted to do what I want to do, you would pick this person, but whatever. You can pick her. It's fine. No one's going to be upset. So it's right there. And what does Mariah really mean to you? Honestly. Who cares? Send Mariah and James in to the elimination together. They can lose together. They get a couple extra days in a hotel together, a little extra vacation together. The whole thing would have been amazing. They would have loved it. Would have been a way better ending for the two of them, for you, for Nurys, for everyone. And he doesn't do it. And Nurys loses it on him. And thank goodness, no anger management classes should be that effective. Okay. I don't know Nurys, but I'm still proud of her, as proud as you can be of someone on the TV show that you love, for how amazing, the anger management clearly worked. She is very much in control of her emotions and in control of herself in every way. And I, again, love the way she handles the opening of this episode. But thank goodness that it shouldn't be, if someone exists that could find a way to get her in a very deserved moment where she needed to let this out, okay? She deserves to. We needed to see it. It was fun. It was fireworks. She loses it on Jay. It's the best. She goes in on multiple people, not just Jay. Colleen, too. I think some others caught some strays in it. It was fantastic. So do not get in an argument with Nurys. I think we've learned that by this point of the season, especially when she has all of the ammo on her side and is mostly right. She is a little tiny bit lying about, did I ever actually say that? Well, she should just be like, I did. And then I didn't do anything about it. What? I didn't vote for you, anything like that. So tiny little lie in there. Sure. But she's got the ammo. She's got most of the argument on her side. Just don't argue with that woman. And so, yeah, the order goes as planned. Jay picks Mariah. Emmanuel has loyalty, which, I think also for him may cost him here because he... Again, so easy to get Jay in there versus James and Mariah. Try to take Jay out, which would be advantageous. I think they all should be now that Horacio and Kylan are gone. I think, and Ed and Raven and Zara. And, I think if I'm in that house, I'm like, okay, so Nurys and Jay, those are now the two favorites around here. We've eliminated the 5 people that used to be at the top of this list, and now these 2 are at the top of the list. And I get that he helped to get you there, but yeah, Emmanuel, same as kind of Berna. I know it would be really hard. I know it would be vindictive and a big backstab, but I think he should have done it anyways. And then TJ, of all people, goes in on Jay a bit. Dude, you cried last week. What happened? Like, I love how vocal TJ has been the last handful of episodes, really the whole season, but certainly the last 3-4 episodes about just like how much just those 3 people were being targeted and how people keep turning their back on Nurys. And when TJ tells you yet again that you've done something stupid, you've got to feel horrible. You've got to feel whatever the opposite feeling is of being told by TJ you killed it. That's, as amazing as that has to feel, it is the exact opposite as how bad it has to feel when TJ for the second week in a row is like, dude, what are you doing? Then we've got the Conquest match, James, Olivia, Nurys, and Nurys just smokes them. There isn't much to it. There isn't a whole lot to talk about, to discuss, to debate. The slider puzzle is hard. It does take a bit of luck to get on the right path right at the start, but damn, she smoked it. They seemingly had no chance versus the slider puzzle. She dominated it and went on to dominate all 3 puzzles and absolutely smoked them. Her puzzle game is on point. She is for sure near the top, if not the top threat going into this final. We will do the power rankings here in just a moment, and we'll see if I put her number 1, number 2. It's probably not going any lower than that. Spoiler alert. Not going any lower than number 1 or number 2. James and Mariah then. James obviously goes home, which means Mariah has lost her boo for the final, which, not a horrible time to lose. You have like 2 days left in the house or a day left in the house or whatever. So not too bad. I wanted the greatest polidicking effort to end in a finals appearance, but you can't get everything you wished for. And maybe that the fact that he doesn't make the finals, maybe I'm going to have to go back and assess, going to have to look in the history books and find out, where does this actually rank? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself saying the greatest polidicking effort ever. He did survive an entire season without being in the majority alliance and just avoiding all but one elimination early on. So it was pretty impressive. We'll see if it was the greatest ever. But what do you know? The most that both of them can say about the situation after is, I hope we're friends after this. So, yeah, love story it did not turn out to be. I do hope, though, it is an actual legitimate friendship and wonderful. But I also hope that we get to see Lockie back. This James guy, he was fine wallpaper. He was pretty to look at, but he was pretty damn boring on this season. And I came in with high hopes for him because back on Challenge UK, when James Locke went by Lockie, he was a whirlwind of crazy great television for a whole 1 episode of television, or 2 or 1.5, whatever it was. But it was pretty amazing, and he made a big impact and was pretty damn entertaining for kind of all the wrong reasons to him. But, still was fantastic television, and I want Lockie back. I need UK episode 1 Lockie back in our lives. So please and thank you. If he does get invited back, invite him back, but make him sign a contract saying we're getting UK James and not season 39 James. And then as for Olivia, she handled herself really well in this episode. Like, you just got to say it, as well as you possibly could in the aftermath of last week. This was the best case scenario I could have imagined for how this episode could go for her. I do feel for her. She is going to be a villain going into the next season that she's on, assuming, I believe she would definitely be invited, and she probably will go, I would assume. I don't know. I stand by, I'm not the biggest fan. That was alluded to throughout the season, eventually just flat out said. But regardless of that, I do think that she was extremely genuine in her desire to make things right within this episode, had real regret and turmoil. And again, just the anguish on her face is pretty overwhelming at a couple times in this episode. And so hats off to her for handling this the best that she could have. And, she comes just short of being able to make that final. And I really wanted to see her in a final so that she could overcome the trauma of what went down on the last season and, really fully it seems like she's put some closure around that. Hopefully she deserves to, but I think, the ultimate closure would have been getting to a final and getting to go through and finish a final in some way. So I do hope that she gets to do that sometime in the future, but she gets sent home here by Nurys, 4 people up, 4 people down. And Nurys, the new face of the show, is headed to the final. Awards time. Best quote. We've got a few, and what do you know? They're basically all from Nurys. I will not be telling none of you guys anything. Also, fuck all you guys, every single one of you. Yeah. End quote from Nurys to open the episode, basically to open the episode. Fantastic, obviously. And then Nurys again, I don't know if betrayed is the right word, but that's the only one that comes to mind, which is just, oh my God. Again, handled that conversation with Olivia beautifully if the goal is to make Olivia feel as horrible as possible. It actually was the most effective way to do that. Brutal stuff. And then TJ, really? Nurys, loyalty doesn't mean much to people. Integrity doesn't either. TJ, Jay, you cried last time we were right here. What happened? End quote. And all of that collectively together is definitely the quote of the week. We'll give it to Nurys with an assist from TJ. Just, fantastic episode as expected of her letting everyone know how she rightfully feels about everything that has happened. As for best moment, a lot of good ones in this episode. Nurys' entrance, obviously. The conversation between her and Olivia, obviously. Hiccups in the middle of the awards. That's no good. Jay, Mariah, and Emmanuel's dance celebration. I'll admit, I got a giggle out of it. It was kind of fun and funny and good on their part. And if you hate them and their alliance, so be it. I think you should be able to admit that it was kind of funny and fun. The fleeting moment that the All-Girls Alliance was pitched, I'll remember it fondly. Berna's toast. Berna got to give a toast. That was kind of fun. So there was one fun kind of part of the, of the little dance night, party night. Nurys versus Jay and or Colleen. Obviously, fantastic moment. TJ versus Jay. Didn't see that one coming, but it happened and was great. And then, of course, Nurys winning. And the second straight episode, we get a fantastically edited end. Her center frame, great music choice, the whole thing. Fantastic. I'm going with Nurys versus Jay. No. We're going with the entrance in Olivia and Nurys' conversation. The fireworks weren't there, but it was just as scathing, just as wonderful. So that is our moment of the episode. And as for MVP, we don't even have a ballot this week, guys. Are you kidding me? Obviously, it's Nurys. Now for the power rankings, a little bit of history that was made, and then my predictions for the final next week. So power rankings for the last week here, we're finally going to put the men and women together because that is how the final is going to be ran. And so I've got Jay first, Nurys second, and I kind of think that's like tier one. You could put them in either order, but I think they have the least concerns for me going into the final as far as being able to do everything that is asked of you within a final and do it at worst average and at best pretty damn good for some of the elements. So I've got J1, Nurys 2. I think one of those two is going to bring home the win. I think those two are kind of the clear favorites right now. What a juicy storyline. I feel like it would be the two of them at like some puzzle right at the end or something. That would be pretty amazing given the events of the last couple episodes. I've got Corey third, Emmanuel fourth, Berna fifth, and I do think those three all have a shot to win. I do put them a slight tier below Jay and Nurys, but Corey, Emmanuel, Berna, and then Mariah and Colleen at the bottom. I don't really see a path to victory for the two of them. They're the only two of these seven that I'm like, I don't really see it. Would I like the surprise? No, I want to see Nurys win. I want to see Corey win. And if Corey or Nurys doesn't win, then I would probably want to see Jay win, honestly, because of the story purposes of it, and because I did really like Jay, and I appreciate that we have a villain this season, so I still kind of like Jay in that respect, certainly. And so yeah, I want one of my faves, Corey, to win. I want Nurys to win because that would be amazing. And if it's not one of those two, I'd really like it to be Jay for the story purposes of it. I don't know that an Emmanuel, Berna, Mariah, or Colleen does what the goal kind of the season of creating a new champ that can be kind of a pivotal figure in the challenge world for seasons to come. Maybe Emmanuel, maybe even Berna. So we'll see. But Mariah and Colleen, it's been nice having you around. Wonderful girls, wonderful people. But I don't think they're going to win, and I'm kind of hoping that they don't. The quick little bit of history that was made is I had the wonderful pleasure last week at Challenge Mania, which, by the way, I am going to be recapping Challenge Home Turf at some point over the course of the next week, probably this weekend. Maybe I'll finally get to watch both of the first two episodes, do a little recap of that. I'll throw in a little Challenge Mania recap in there as well. We had Challenge Mania Chicago 6 last weekend. It was a fantastic time. Did a little write-up and post on the Instagram, so go check that out if you like. But I got to meet Corey in person, one of my favorites, so super, super fun to get to meet him, just as amazing in person as on the show. And afterwards, we were DMing a little bit, And we kind of put together a list. I knew it wasn't great as far as the representation for gay men on the challenge of late, and really throughout the history of the show, haven't always been given the proper, the proper chance, the proper opportunity from production. And I didn't realize, though, how long it had been since a gay man had made the final. And with Corey making the final on this season, he is officially the first gay man to make the final since, not counting, they count, but it's flagship series wise, since Frank and Marlon on season 24, Rivals 2, 15 seasons later. Now, Connor on Challenge Australia and Nathan on Challenge UK, both the MVPs of their season, by the way, both truly amazing cast members and pretty damn good at the challenge itself. I think they both got second. Did Connor get third? They both made the final. So, non-spin-off division here, first since season 24, which is just wild. I might be missing someone. I went back pretty quick through and scanned. But the whole history, there's not that many. Dan Renzi, one of my all-time faves, season 4, won. Everyone makes the final in that season, though, still. Norm on season 7 makes the final, does not get the win. Of course, my second all-time favorite challenger, Tyler Duckworth, the mighty Tyler Duckworth, season 20 and 21, gets the wins. Frank, then on season 23, gets the win, and JD from Real World Brooklyn is in the final that season. And then Frank and Marlon on season 24 are both in the final, don't win. And then there's this huge drought, and we've had, Shane got close during Vendettas or Final Reckoning, one of the two. A couple folks have gotten close, but it just hasn't, the casting hasn't been there as far as getting some representation in for the gay men in the reality TV world to showcase themselves and their talents on the challenge. And none of them have made the final. The few that have gotten the chance haven't made the final in quite a while. So a little bit of history made by Corey, and obviously I'm just thrilled for him that I get to see him run the final. And I do feel like, again, third in that power rankings. We'll see. But Jay Nurys, top of the power rankings, Corey third, Emmanuel fourth, Berna fifth, Mariah sixth, Colleen seventh. As for predictions, I kind of just made them with the power rankings, but I'll go over them again. First and foremost, this is going to be a two-episode final that doesn't really need to be a 2-episode final. I think that's my first prediction, and I do hope I'm wrong. I hope it would be great if next week was the final week, but it didn't, from the preview, it didn't look like it. It looks like we got 2 episodes left, which will be great. But the finals, especially with this few people, probably only needs to be 1 episode. People will get purged. Prediction number 2, people will get purged, and I'm going to predict it's going to be Colleen and Mariah. That's just because I have them at the bottom of my power rankings, and I've been wrong about truly 97% of my predictions this season. And so if my final power rankings could be like exactly accurate, spot on, you did it, I could recover a little bit of dignity in my prediction ability. So I'm going with those 2 to be purged because I had them at the bottom. And then as far as the winner pick, obviously I'm picking someone very different from the multiple other times I've tried to make a winner's pick this season and been completely wrong. But out of this group that's left, I think Jay is going to win. We saw in the preview, there's some running, which of course there is. There's like a little kind of rappelling something or other going down a tricky surface and kind of rappelling, kind of getting hold onto a rope. That's up Jay's alley for sure. There's some eating, which of course there is. And there's some carrying of a big heavy rope. And while I think, I really do think Nurys is kind of right there with them, having a legit shot. If there's a decent amount of puzzles, I think, like a lot of puzzles, kind of, I feel like Nurys suddenly has big advantage, probably maybe takes it home. I do think Corey has a shot because it doesn't look like they're at elevation, which is the one thing that's always made me the most nervous about Corey and any other taller, super muscular people on the show. Historically, it's just harder at elevation when they got to climb the mountains. That body type doesn't do very well at the thin altitude in air. And so doesn't have that working against him, which is great. Seems like wherever they're doing it there locally at sea level, which is fantastic. So he's definitely got a shot, but I think Jay is the most well-rounded left and is, going to top off this villain arc with a win. 85% of the fan base is going to start to wrongly discredit it because they don't like him anymore. And that's going to just make him as the new villain of the challenge all the better going into the next season, that I assume if he does take home the win, if he does or doesn't take home the win, I assume he's going to get invited if it is no longer looking like it's going to be a champs only situation. Or if he does end up winning and it is a champs only situation, he now could get the invite. So Jay's my prediction to win. I'm definitely rooting for Corey, definitely rooting for Nurys. And if one of those two can't win, I am then probably rooting for Jay so that we can get the good story arc and the season can be successful on yet another level as far as what they were trying to do. So with that is episode 17. It's in the books. It was a little bit of a longer one here. So thank you so much for being here with me all throughout, not just this episode, but throughout the season. Reminder again, next week, the podcast will be out sometime on Thursday. Again, Valentine's Day. Your boy takes date nights very seriously, especially the holiday types. So we're going to be doing some fun stuff with the wife on Wednesday night, and then we'll watch and record on Thursday and get that to you as soon as we can. Thank you. Again, links in the description, whether you're watching or listening, for Ayanna's fundraiser and her Instagram if you want to reach out and give her some love and support. And as always, I am at Challenge Historian on Instagram. If you want to DM me, chat challenge, any questions, ideas, topics you want to see covered. We're about to head into a brief, hopefully pretty brief off season for the show. So I've been getting some great ideas, a couple amazing ideas recently from a lot of you. So definitely get those in if you'd like to hear something talked about, hear something covered. The short form content is going to be starting here soon. That's most of the off season is going to be that as much as anything. So we can do some quick little niche stuff too. It doesn't have to be some big topic that I can talk about for an hour, little quick questions. So get those in at Challenge Historian. Hit me up. Thank you for being here. Love you. Appreciate you. Until next week. Peace.